All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first episode of At What Cost. Thanks for joining us. I'm TheSource. Joining me is Azaraki, my co-host. How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. Actually, I'm doing pretty well. You know, a day's good when you wake up and you say to yourself, "Wow, I'm a lot better than Braun is."
Hey, come on. I'm not that bad. Granted, I did mess up the video, folks, which is part of the delay, and thank you, Glorified, for being here to snark at everything I say. You can see him in the chat.
It wouldn't be the same otherwise.
Wouldn't be the same. Either way, thanks for joining us, folks. The show is At What Cost, and the whole point of the show is to help teach people who are new at Dawngate about how the game works, all of the ins and outs of basic mechanics, the differences between this and things like League of Legends, Dota 2, Han, Infinite Crisis, any other MOBAs you may have played, and just to give you guys as much information as possible, and then to look at some more complex things, some of the nuances and higher level plays, which we'll look at in some clips. The show will go probably about 40 minutes or so. We're gonna take a look at one. Um, we're gonna take a look at one full game, and then we're gonna look at specific clips and instances of situations you might run into in solo play. My mic's a little too quiet. All right, I'll turn myself up.
Now, the clips and videos and all that you'll see right now are clips of the two of us playing, and we'll be playing with a couple of our friends. But basically, our big goal is down the line, we want some viewers to submit some games of what they play, and we can start looking at those. So, uh, I swear, we're not narcissists,
Yeah, we don't
and
want. I don't want our play. I tried to get as many friends of mine who were new to Dawngate to give me footage, but nobody could record at the same time. People didn't have stream capabilities, what have you. So the hope is that down the line, you guys will send us clips and videos you want to get, you want us to break down and look at and talk about. So we might as well get into it now. Unfortunately, we don't have a replay system yet in Dawngate, so everything is from single view. Tried my best to get as much additional viewpoints and footage, but a lot of what we'll look at is just my play, what's going on in my lane until we sort of hit team fight phase. And we'll switch over to that right about now. Um,
just give me
so,
like a countdown or something.
yeah, so have you switched over to video, Aza?
Yep.
Alright, so we'll start the play in 3, 2, 1. So now video's going. It'll take a couple of seconds to set up because there were a couple of frame rate glitches, but we're going to get straight into a match.
There we go. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to talk about is picks and bans, because that's really where any MOBA starts off in the first place. One of the coolest things about what you can see in Dawngate is that near the bottom of the screen you have preferred roles. There's Gladiator, Tactician, Hunter, and Predator. That's how you basically earn money. That's the economy system of this game. Gladiator is pretty focused on last hitting. Tactician gets points for, or gets Vim rather, which is this game's gold, as would be, from standing near someone while they last hit, as well as harassing. Hunter gets it from jungle creeps, and Predator gets it from uh, kills and assists, as well as spirit well harass, which is something that we're going to see a little bit later on.
Yep. Now we've switched over
Apparently,
to
you're still quiet.
picking. Yeah, I think I've finally readjusted my mic. So now we're taking a look at, or we were taking a look at roles and loadouts, and everything sort of, went pretty quick because I wasn't timing things out as well. Pause. We'll wait till we get into game. So as you guys can see, we have a team comp. We have my character. I'm playing Nissa. Underneath me, Busty Barbie is playing Zeri, who is a very utility style mage. We have Azaraki playing Petrus, a good CC jungler. I was singed playing Reyna, a very good front line tank and a bit of a bruiser. And then JP is playing Fenmore, a really good sustained mage. Um, After you get through picking your role and your loadout, which is sort of a runes and masteries page, which we'll explain a little bit further down the line, you get a chance to pick possible skins you have, different ward skins, and as well as announcers. And now we get a quick look at the enemy team. I'm actually going to pause it right here. So we can take a quick look at what the enemy team has. They have a Gladiator Fenmore, similar to ours, so he'll be farming a lot. They actually went with a Tactician Makella. Makella being a ranged AD carry. which this is a little bit off. It's not that common. Granted, one of the big things about Dawngate is most characters can be played in pretty much every position. Your role is sort of how you accumulate gold and doesn't really shoehorn you into, you know, not necessarily getting kills. It just changes how you deal with a lot of your farming. So they went with an extra AD carry. They have a Nissa as well as we do, playing Gladiator, and they went with a Predator Cerulean. So his job is to try and roam and gank a lot, and then they have Volek, a fairly decent damage-based jungler, playing Hunter role. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm gonna restart in 3, 2, 1, and we should be synced up, and then we get into game.
The loading times really quickly, which is something that I really like about this game, because it loads during Champion Select, or Shaper Select, rather. So that really cuts down on a lot of loading times, which is definitely one of a big pet peeve of a lot of other MOBAs that you can see, and I know League of Legends suffers from that problem quite a bit as well.
Yep, and please disregard some of the frame rate glitches again. We had some video issues. I mentioned Vex had eaten some of the video, trying to get all of it set up as quickly as we could. So right now we've got both teams splitting out onto the map. If you guys take a look at the mini map, you can see Petrus is going down towards the bottom half of the jungle, and in probably about 2 seconds he'll put down a ward. I actually put down my ward now. As it was mentioned in the chat, wards come up the moment they're off cooldown, and everybody gets a free ward. So use your wards. And this is actually a quick moment. I'm going to pause the game for just a second, and Azaraki knows the moment I'm talking about. So you saw 2 seconds ago that Zeri went up and warded the lane. Now, that's not necessarily a bad idea, but I'm playing Nissa, and Nissa's passive gives her her squirrel. She's got her squirrel who sits on her arm. If Nissa walks into a bush, the squirrel hops off and gives her vision. It's basically like a free ward. So if you're playing with a Nissa, don't ward the lane, because Nissa will do that with her squirrel.
Yeah, he was pretty mad at that.
I was
Well,
really, really mad at that when that happened, because it's an extra ward, it's an extra bit of vision. If we place further up, we know that it'll give us better vision of where the jungler is, and my support could have placed behind that sort of rock structure, which you guys will see in a minute. That's one of the better jungle routes to place, because it tells you if they're coming in towards the backside of your spirit well, as well as the resilience buff, which is up on that corner, and the money pigs, which is a sort of a really good Vim generating camp.
and
So
the map is also symmetrical, and in terms of the top half and the bottom half of the map, they're sort of symmetrical. So in this case, we can treat it as symmetrical because it fits our purposes. But in the bottom right of the map, you can see where I warded. That's basically a good place to ward near the top side of the map as well, because as Braun said, it basically watches that jungle route, and there's very little places that you can come out of the jungle from the top half without running over that ward if you place it correctly. So that just sort of gives you a visual of where it should really be.
alright, let's restart the video in 3, 2, 1, and we'll get back into play. So mostly the thing the thing about early levels in Dawngate is there's a lot of value to early harass. If you have better vision, as you can see, I'm doing my best to sort of poke at that Cerulean, and I know that Fenmore has really only got one skill. He's also maxed out he started with his E, which is a line skill shot. You saw that wolf run out and back. Now I know he doesn't have the harass of his Q, which is an auto-targeted ability. He doesn't need to try and land that, he just walks up to me and uses it. This gives me a little bit more confidence, and I know how I can, handle and control the lane. I'm playing sort of a hardcore farming AD carry, so a lot of what I'm going to be doing at early levels is just trying to CS and harass when I can. My Zeri, she's got a lot of good long-range skill shots. She's got a slow and a silence, so she'll be doing the majority of the harassing for our lane, unless they step up and sort of get in my way.
And you're seeing right now that Braun is putting on extra lane pressure because, as he said, he knew that Fenmore took his Wolf, and Wolf isn't a guaranteed damage like his Q is. So basically what that says is that either, first of all, he can run up and, if he can predict it, he can dodge it and get out a lot of harass, Or if Fenmore misses it, then Braun knows that he's got a little bit of an opening so that he can start harassing a little bit more. And that's really something that you can take advantage of pretty well in level 1 scenarios like this.
Another thing you guys should keep in mind at early levels is how you pick your spellbook spells. Spellbook spells are like summoner spells in League of Legends. You get 3, but in this game you get them when you level. You get them at level 1, 10, and 20, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, so levels 1, 10, and 20. I went with Drain, which is an offensive spell, because my one thing I like to think about is what do we have in the lane? I like to have at least one offensive spell in the lane and one defensive spell in the lane. A lot of people will actually run 2 defensive spells. They'll run things like Tailwind, which is a speed boost for you and an ally, and maybe Blitz. Granted, this was a little bit of solo queue. There was a little bit less coordination here, so I wasn't worried about it. But keeping in mind what you pick for your early spell matters, because you only get one until level 10. You don't get to have that value of both.
And one thing that we can note right now, as you have Zeri highlighted, so you can see in the top left corner that Zeri took Blink first, which is really, it's hardly ever the best option. The really long cooldown of Blink, it's I think 5 minutes or something. It's quite a long cooldown. So taking it as the first spell doesn't really give you too many options. She's going to be able to use it once or twice before she actually gets her second spell up. And a lot of times, if you pick a spell like Tailwind, you can use that a lot more frequently, and it also gives you escape potential for for whoever you're laning with too. Because Tailwind, if you're from League of Legends, is basically like Ancient Coin or before that Shirelia's, where everyone around you gets a quick speed boost. So that can save you and your partner, and it's also got a shorter cooldown. Granted, you're not going to be able to dodge skill shots as easily, and you're not going to be able to get as quickly out of range of something as you would Blink, but overall, it's generally a better option.
Yep, and you guys saw right there, my ward came off cooldown, I instantly put it back down. That's one of the most important things about, especially early Dawngate, but just Dawngate in general. You can't buy wards in this game. You instantly only get one, and you see there, she did take the time to go place up further, and that saw the bullet coming in the lane. That could have easily turned out a lot worse than it did. We do take a lot of harass here, and I believe I'm forced to back after this. No, I think I popped both my health potions and waited out. Yeah, no, I popped both my health potions and I waited out, but that ward was very, very key. And the moment it came off of cooldown, she instantly went to put it there. So there should never be a moment, unless you're roaming around team fighting or you've died, where you don't have your ward on the map. There's no point in just not doing it because it's free.
Yeah, and free is really the key word right there. I've seen a lot of people who don't place their ward down, and okay, maybe you're saving it till a point where you can get out a little bit farther and place your ward a little bit deeper, and you just want to be safe knowing that. But if you wait 3 minutes to do so, or even 30 seconds, I would say, is stretching it. That's 30 seconds where you don't have that map coverage, and especially if you wait 3 minutes, like you could have placed a ward and have it go off of cooldown by the time you put up that next ward.
Yeah, and you guys saw there, First Blood did go out, and a lot of that came down to the fact that my support actually roamed down. Because we saw Volek and Cerulean moving through the ward, they were able to group up and pick that off, and right here, I was so close to that kill. That was me just knowing that I was one basic attack off. It was a little depressing. And that was sort of me miscalculating my damage on the drain. But, that comes with time and practice, and I was a little focused on just trying to keep up my CS and my harass.
Yeah, so in that trade, we traded 2 for 2 and then actually 3 for 3, I guess. I don't know where that other
Yeah,
kill.
no, I think it was
Yeah.
it was 3 for 3. It was First Blood, then 2 kills, then 2 pickups.
All right, cool. So, and that's a fairly even trade, but we did get first blood, so that'll give our team a little bit more vim there as well. And part of the reason why that worked out so well is because, as you said, Zeri was able to roam down, and we had once again the ward coverage. That's something that we want to stress over and over and over is ward coverage. It really helps you get an early advantage, and it helps you win games, because if we didn't have that ward coverage, I would not have ever known that Volek was coming down to gank bot lane, so I wouldn't have been there to counter gank, and who knows, that might have been 2 kills on their side, but 0 on our side. So that ward really ended up, giving us the information that allowed us to pick up first blood and make that whole trade worth it.
Yep, and when I back, which I think I back, and I think I back fairly soon to pick up some items. We'll talk a little bit more about the item system and how that works. You've seen me tabbing in and checking gold amounts and gold values. Items in this game don't build out of multiple pieces. They build out of one piece moving along a different track. There are how many base items?
6.
6 base items. So 6 base items. They each then branch out into say 3, and then those branch out into say 2 or 3. So that's sort of how that system works, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. But here, you want to go over this play in your almost gank?
Yeah, this is the sort of gank where I knew that I had full health coming into it, so I wasn't really too worried about tanking a couple of tower shots. But the biggest thing I wanted to do was get pressure down onto the enemy team. And as you saw, out of that gank, we didn't necessarily pick up kills, but we ended up bringing both of their lane members down to half health. And now Zeri went a little bit too far there, so it sort of diminished the play there. But had she not gone in, then she would have been nearly full health. Braun was at about half, so they would have had a ton of lane pressure. But that's one other thing that we'll get to talking about quite a bit throughout today is that sometimes you see plays where people overextend
I'm
or...
actually going to pause right now. Should be at about 10:26.
Sure, yeah.
Keep going.
I'm 1 second ahead. But yeah, that was actually just the end of my statement. Is you'll see a lot of us mentioning stuff about overcommitting, and that's basically what Zeri did there. And she got a little bit too close, and I guess just forgot about Cerulean's flip, and so she got caught under tower and took a lot of free damage. So the gank which I did, even though it brought both of their team members up top to half health, it didn't really matter because she got brought down to basically nothing. And as you saw, she was recalling with sub 100 health.
Alright, so now we're going to talk a little bit about items. As you guys can see, they're the 6 basic items: life, resilience, will, time, and hunger. And power. I missed one. And if you look at hunger, hunger is now building into multiple things. I'm actually about to pick up consumption, but I have the option of going hunger into desire or hunger into consumption. And one of the coolest things about Dawngate, and this is a lot to do with lore and their design, is every single item is a concept or a feeling or an idea that will then expand into a greater idea. If you think about it, what is consumption but a kind of hunger? What is ambition but then a kind of hunger? So everything sort of, moves out in, that sort of, that weird little track, but it gets really, really cool. And, it's how the items differentiate. The difference between desire and consumption is power and lifesteal. Desire has a little bit of armor there that then can build into ambition or passion, and consumption can build into veracity, or what's the other one? Assimilation. And granted, a lot of it is, complex wordplay, but it gets pretty cool. So I have that green item that you see there, that's a mace. That was power that I built into force. Force being one of the crit items, and, this is more lore and aesthetic, but that's just sort of how that works.
Yeah, and as Braun said, they start out as wide concepts like life. Life is very generic. There are a lot of things you can say about life, and then eventually you go down the trees and you get to stuff like vigor or growth and stuff like that. So it's really cool, and I think the overall design of Dawngate is definitely one of the best I've seen in any MOBA. Just if you spend some time to take a look at the lore for some of the shapers, then their entire being will make sense. Zeri's kit makes perfect sense for Zeri, because first of all, she's an artist. She throws paint at people, and she's also got a silence which takes the colors out of people, which I think is a pretty cool concept. And there are just a lot of details in this game that are lore-based that really bring the shapers to life and make it work. So I definitely applaud Waystone for that.
Let's hit play in 3, 2, 1, and we'll keep going. So at that point, I've picked up. Oh, actually, no, that's a great play by yours. You want to talk about that play?
That was just once again, he overstayed. He overcommitted. He knew that the minion wave was getting a little bit smaller, and so did I. So once the minion wave got down to about 1 minion and he still didn't back off, I decided to say, hey, I can pick up a kill off of this. So I stun him, knock him closer into the tower, and by the time that all finished, the minion ended up dying. So the tower switched aggro to him, even though he never hit me to swap the aggro. And he took a bunch of tower shots, I spun to win, and here we got a kill there.
Oh, do I pick up Fenmore here? No, I don't pick up Fenmore here. Man, I had such trouble in this match picking up kills. Granted, don't overcommit, guys. There's no point in overcommitting to a kill that, may result in you dying. Granted, sometimes it's worth it, but for the most part, it was better for me to just keep forcing him out of lane. And I think I'm at 60. Yeah, I was at 69 CS at this point. I was starting to build a huge CS lead. That was one thing that kept happening. Even though there was fighting going on in bot lane, there were other plays being made. As Nissa's very very good at becoming that late game hyper carry with insane farm. One of her Ooh, I think I die here. Yeah, no, I stayed a little bit too long. That's me not paying attention to ward coverage. He walked right through my ward, and I died.
And this goes back to the comment I said earlier about being better than him.
Shut up. But yeah, one thing you can think about with Nissa, if you guys ever like to try her, is she's a very very late game hard farming AD carry. She has a lot of personal steroid. Her W is actually a flat haste steroid. If you guys are still unfamiliar with the way the stats work in this game, haste is attack speed, move speed, cooldown reduction, and anything else?
That's it.
That's it. Okay. So it is those stats. So she actually is an AD carry with her own attack speed bonus. That's like, a free zeal as an AD carry in League of Legends. Or Yasha, if you are familiar with Dota.
Alternatively, you have stuff like power, which serves as both ability power and attack damage if you're from League of Legends, but it's all basically lumped into one, and each shaper basically their main kit only does either physical or magical damage. I don't know if there are any hybrids whatsoever, but if there are, then they're very few and very subdued. Now you can pick up
something
items.
says Volek in my head might be a little hybrid. No, Kogan is hybrid.
All right. So, but sometimes you can pick up an item that will give you the other source of damage. Like I know Glory, I believe.
Is magic
Glory
damage.
Glory has a set. It might be magic damage. It might be physical. I forgot. I'm going to trust you and say it's magical, but it's a set type of damage no matter which kind of character you're playing. So that part is much simpler than it is in a lot of other MOBAs where you have to differentiate between attack damage and ability power, because it also empowers your auto attacks, it scales your abilities, it's a catch-all.
Yeah, it's very, very nice, and it changes the way some people felt it took away a lot of complexity when the game was just coming out, when the very, very early days of the closed beta. But, a lot of us have come to see that it just changes the way the complexity operates. And we haven't really mentioned it. Bot lane was getting trounced a little bit. There was some struggle down there. They'd already lost their first binding. Granted, we had taken the other one in turn, so there was a little bit of even there. If you guys played Dawngate a long time ago and you're coming back to it now, bindings no longer respawn. That was actually something that was in the game. That has changed, and we'll explain that more when we actually break the base and get into the way that the Nexus works and the inhibitors work, that kind of thing. It's called the Guardian and the Cores in this game. And yeah, this Volek really, really wanted that. And I think there's actually a frame rate glitch. Yeah, right here, there's a frame rate glitch. So we do engage this fight, and it'll come out of the glitch in about 2 seconds.
There we go. And that was a nice boomerang blade. I am thinking of the wrong game. What's that actually called? I don't know what Nisa's ultimate is called.
Oh, I'm a baddie. I don't remember what Nisa's ultimate is called.
Man. Anyway, you saw that. That was
it's
a good skill shot to land, and right here, it's just chase and chase. Petrus is really, really good at chasing because his spin gives him more movement speed, and on top of that, he can jump. His jumps up every 6 or 7 seconds. It can get even lower if you have a lot of cooldown reduction, or in this case, haste. But yeah, he's really good at chasing down people, and that's how we ended up killing Cerulean there, is just chase, 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 chase. So Spirit Wells in this game is basically, that's what that whole play came off of. Their team was trying to take our Spirit Well. And what Spirit Wells are basically, it's part of your passive gold income, or VIM income as it's called in this game. The amount of workers in your Spirit Well determines how much passive gold you gain by just sitting around and not farming or anything. And if you control a Spirit Well, all of the minions in that Spirit Well start working for your team. You can kill the minions even without capturing the Spirit Wells, and that will... And actually, they didn't go for the capture, they just harassed it a little bit because Spirit Wells haven't even unlocked yet, which honestly is, in my opinion, it wasn't quite worth it. If you're trying to go really deep into a play like that, just trying to get a little bit of Spirit Well harass wasn't necessarily worth it too much. And right here, we can see that As soon as Volek pops his ultimate, we all vacated immediately, but Volek overstayed. I guess he doesn't know the timing on his ultimate, but he should have gotten out before the ultimate ended.
That was
And
that big AoE circle around him that we were all running from. It gives him an additional, it gives him huge amounts of lifesteal and starts to sort of siphon energy out of us.
yeah, and we were able to turn the fight on him as soon as it wore off. He should have been backing off before it wore off in the first place because we're 3v2, and Fenmore, I believe it was, who was also in the top lane, was farther back than he would have liked, so it was basically a 3v1 for the first part of that fight. And once again, we're talking about the overstaying and overcommitting, which is a big problem with a lot of beginning MOBA players.
Yeah. One thing to keep in mind about Dawngate and overcommitting is you can always check what spells people are picking up, and you have to keep in mind that at those early levels, people only have one spell. That means you don't have to worry about them having Ignite and Flash. They will only have one. They may not even have Flash. They may have Tailwind. So I think off this fight, we pick up a few kills. Yeah, you go in and get the kill onto the Mikkel. We're able to force them off. The ultimate was popped out of... I actually think I'm going to kill him here. Yeah, no, ultimate was popped out of Fenmore, and I think I'm going to get the crit. No, I don't. That was a different play. He'll get away, so will the Cerulean, but we were able to sort of force them off. We picked up a free kill and got a few ultimates out of them. I think Zeri might die, though. Yeah, she goes down.
It's a little unfortunate for Zeri going down, but we didn't have the ward with the deep ward coverage to see Volek coming, so we weren't able to back out of there. But that's not necessarily to say we had bad ward coverage, because we can only have 5 wards out on the map at any given time. And as you can see right now, they're placed in more of a standard, straight-up game idea right now. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that if your wards are in your own base, you're generally going to look to play a little bit more defensively. If they're in the enemy side of the jungle, you're looking to be playing a little bit more aggressively. Right now, they're in the middle, so we're not really doing either. We're just making sure that we keep as much map control as we can, but don't force anything too much.
Yeah, sort of a defensive line. Those are a lot of the big in ingress and egress points. I was trying to say that without it sounding badly. Those are a lot of the big entrances and pathways to get in and out of key jungle areas. That's sort of how you get to the middle of the enemy jungle. I think we're gonna hold. Yeah, we hold the tower here, and you pick up a pretty good kill onto the Volek.
Yeah, and Zeri did a good job of backing me up there as well. And do we get the Fenmore? I forgot, because I dash over the wall and frame rate.
Yeah, and frame rate glitch. I don't think we get the Fenmore here.
Actually, I think we get the Fenmore, but Zeri dies as well. I think that's what happened,
We'll see.
because
It'll
Zeri
fix itself
dived
in a moment,
really
people.
far.
Give it a minute.
Because I know I back out right about here.
There
Yep,
we go.
and Zeri's going to be diving. She gets the kill and then dies, yeah.
Yeah,
So.
and then I actually swapped bot lane because we had another play coming in. I had rotated down. Final Flight, which is Nissa's ultimate. Thank you, Glorified. I do pick up the kill, and I think I pick up the other kill here too as well. Yeah, one extra good basic attack gets us the double kill, and this is actually one of the turning points. Because after this, we just picked up 4 kills in roughly 2 minutes. That swung a lot of gold in our advantage and gave us a lot of time to pressure down the tower in the lane that wasn't doing so well. Our bot lane had been having some trouble. That was actually filled with some of the newer players that we were playing with, but we're able to pick up this tower, I think. But I definitely stay too long here. So here's an example of trading an objective for a kill. This would have been worth it if JP didn't die. I think JP might die here too. So I get jumped on, I flash away, JP gets picked up by the Cerulean who jumps on top of him, and then I think Volek chases me out. Yeah, Volek's gonna chase me out and kill me, and
I can't jump over that wall, I
is
figured
JP
that out.
gonna live? No, JP doesn't live. So at that point, that was a 2 for a tower. Not completely worth it. I should have blinked away sooner. I tried to help JP fight. Instead, I should have just blinked away into the jungle, run for my life, and I think because I tried to fight, JP thought he could come back in and help, and then the rest of our team sort of filed in here and gave up some kills.
I walked that way because I was tanky enough to do it. I'm not sure why Zeri followed me there, and I feel like I probably could have communicated this whole thing better. Zeri wasn't on our team, first of all, so the communication...
Yeah, we had a few of us in voice chat programs, which is why there's no audio.
I didn't want anyone to follow me there or fight that fight or anything like that, because I had enough sustainability and tankiness to just be able to get out anyway.
I think we do well off this, though.
Off the Spirit Well, I can't quite remember, but we'll see soon enough. I remember you telling us to turn right here, so. And we end up turning and we pick up the Volok kill, I believe. Yeah, we do. Alright, cool. And the rest of the fight, I can't really remember too much of that either, but if you want to watch the Petrus, basically what I'm doing is I'm jumping in, spinning out, jumping in, spinning out, and what that does is I can get a consistent amount of CC on people, but the spin gives me movement speed, and it also hurts the effects of slows. So
Ooh, that Zeri save was good.
slows aren't as effective while I'm spinning. So what that does is I can stun people, but if I'm at low health, I can still get away. So I can stun people and get away, stun people and get away. And it's a way to get a constant source of CC while not giving up a free kill, which is one of the nuances of knowing your shaper really well.
Yeah. And you guys saw there were a bunch of shots that were targeting onto the Petrus Azaraki. Zeri came in and body blocked them. That's Michaela's ultimate. If you guys are familiar with League of Legends, think of it like Caitlyn. It is a auto-targeted, once locked on ability. It actually fires off 6 shots. And no, yeah, you guys make a really good play here.
And yeah, we just basically catch her out, forget about the Volok. That's fine. And then we turn the rest of this fight. Now you tell us that you're on your way, so we're saying to ourselves, yeah, let's fight this. This is fine. We can do this. And so you end up picking up a kill there, and I think you pick up this kill too, unless someone stole it. I stole
Yeah,
it.
yeah, you steal that one, but we still got the kill in
Scumbag-asm.
general. And one of the key things to think about when you guys, if you guys look at that fight again, if you take the time to go back and look at the VOD, that was really, really well played because they went on the target that couldn't get away. Michaela has a dash. They focused the Fen more, and for some reason, Michaela turned back around and gave us the other kill. After that fight, we're actually starting to make a parasite play, and you see me and Azaraki both ward. We ward up in the bush and low towards the entrances, and now Volok is going to come in. And meanwhile, the rest of our team is still doing parasite while dodging its damage. Volok is completely overcommitted here. He doesn't have enough backup. He thought it was lower. I'm able to 1v1 him. The rest of the team is able to zone out and kill the they're able to zone out and kill the Cerulean who tries to dive back on me, and that just resulted in a free parasite for us.
And I really want to commend Singed. He's one of my friends. Uh, One thing that you saw near the beginning of the fight, maybe you were able to see this, but I'm going to point it out, is that he, as soon as Volok used his ultimate, he's playing Reyna. Reyna's Q is a knockback, so she dashes to someone and knocks them back. As soon as Volok used his ultimate, which is that big AoE thing we were talking about before, he dashes and knocks him back. That prevents him from getting close to us while the ultimate is up. And one of the biggest counters to Volok is keeping him away from your team while his ultimate happens. So if you can run out his ultimate without a lot of the people on your team taking damage, then you've taken out a really big part of his kit.
Yeah, Volok is most dangerous when you're fighting him. It's why he has both a targeted slow, which can actually hit more than one person. It's sort of like a line that hits everybody that it touches. It'll slow, and he also has a move speed bonus. His breath, you sort of see this cone, AoE cone in front of him, that gives him an increase in his move speed. So he's very, very good at chasing you down and killing you. If you stop and fight him, you run the risk of him getting off a lot of his huge amount of lifesteal. And then, we see this Fenmore, he got greedy. He got really, really greedy trying to steal away my buff. The god slow out of Sin, and that was just perfect. Let me get off the extra basic attack. And I think you guys will notice there that I don't think Fenmore saw that kill coming because I have an item called Insight. I'm actually going to pause for a quick second. And I want to talk about this item because I think it's a valuable item for new players to keep in mind. Granted, it's a little bit, it takes more skill to have. If you're coming from another MOBA and you've played an AD carry role or a hard carry role, and you're very, very good at your positioning, this item is very, very good. It's this little blue spyglass here that I have my cursor over. And what it does is it gives you attack speed, it gives you haste, and it also gives you increased basic attack range. You actually get to increase your AD carry's range, which is something pretty much every AD carry player has longed for on their kit. It sort of takes an Ashe basic attack and turns it into a Caitlyn level basic attack. Um,
It's 20%.
yeah, it's 20%. I think it's a very, very undervalued item. It's very, very good if you are strong with your positioning and you understand how to use it. There are lots of other really great haste items. I wouldn't say build this on everyone, but if you are in a situation where your team can peel for you, you've got a really good front line. It made that kill possible because I was able to get in a little further outside of what should be my basic attack range. let's restart in
And
three.
before you do,
Uh,
there's one thing I want to mention, and this was way back, and I forgot to mention it before while we were taking Parasite, but you mentioned you placed a ward way far up in the bush, I placed a ward a little bit farther down, and the reason for that is because Parasite fights are so easy to turn around. And one of my biggest pet peeves in this game is when people say, alright, we got one kill, let's go Parasite. Usually you're not far enough ahead to have that be a viable option because the thing about Parasite is that it does more damage than both Dragon, or sorry, both Baron or Roshan, and it also, as you saw before, the Parasite pit is wide open. There's no choke point. There's nothing like that. So the positioning is generally a lot harder if you're trying to position for a team fight and worry about Parasite attacking you the entire time, on top of the raid boss stuff that the Parasite does with his AoE damage. It's really a lot easier to turn a Parasite fight in Dawngate than it is a Baron fight in League of Legends. So that's something that you guys should take away from because I don't want to see people in a solo game be like, oh, we picked up a kill, there's still four of them up and they're pushing, let's take Parasite.
yeah, it's also
Because
not a safe
for,
position because you can come in at more than one angle. It's not like there's the pit and the back end and you have sort of that extra buffer there.
I want to say 80% of the time I'm just throwing something out, but it'll end badly if you try that. So
Beware the
I've seen
parasite.
so many. I've just seen from my own experience so many Parasite fights turned around because of something like that.
Alright, so let's restart in three, two, one. And we'll get back. Oh, actually, we killed the Makella here. So this Makella, I called this a while ago. I said, I'm coming, I'm on my way. This Makella just didn't anticipate the crits because I just crit her 3 times. And that was sort of her underestimating the damage that could show up to get her soon and underestimating how much CC and slow Azaraki had. I think we pick up both of these kills. Volek and Cerulean were like battle buddies. They just like kept going into the worst situations.
And yep, Cerulean's about to die there as well. So that's just us catching them out. And part of that was Braun and I rotating down after the Makella kill as well, which I think should have been communicated by their team. Had Makella said, all right, they just killed me right here. They have a direct line to where you're fighting. And if she would have said that, I think it would have been better. But right here, we take a Spirit Well, and one of the biggest motivations for this is because our minion wave is not pushed up to the tower yet. If our minion wave was pushed up to the tower, then we would go tower, then Spirit Well. But right now, we were just sort of biding our time while the minion wave came up towards the binding. So we went Spirit Well, then binding. And as you saw, we took the Spirit Well before the minions got there, and we can still siege this tower as well as we would be able to before.
Yep, so Azaraki's going to jump into their back line. He's able to punch the Makella back and actually picks her up with the end of his spin. We then pick up the Fenmore. I don't think we get any more kills off of this play. I actually think you die. Yeah, you die here. Little to hem against the Volek. And the Cerulean's going to dive into the back line. He will get kited out by the rest of us and will get picked up. The rest of the team is going to get out, so we traded sort of 1 for 3 there.
Wait, pause it for a sec. What time are you at?
I am at 27:09.
Alright, I'm a little bit ahead of you. Let me just back up a little bit. There we go. Alright, we're all good. Countdown when you're ready.
Alright, 3, 2, 1. Alright, so I think at this point, yeah, so here's another example of making sure you rotate off of your objectives. This is, sort of an overall MOBA thing, but we have the wave pushing. I'm able to pick up that tower because we'd already gotten it really low. We instantly rotate onto a Spirit Well. We know that they're not going to come up soon, and this is sort of where you get that stranglehold level in League of Legends. In League of Legends, a lot of that stranglehold comes from warding deep into the enemy jungle and taking all of their jungle, taking every single camp. Dawngate, the camps are valuable, but not in the same way. Spirit Wells will generate you a lot more gold, and it's better to get control of those if you have a chance.
In terms of the actual buffs on the map, I just want to explain this really quickly. Blue is haste, so it gives you a bunch of haste. This is short in terms. Green is power, so it gives you extra power. and orange is resilience, so it gives you extra resilience. And I think the most valuable one late game is the haste buff because it scales the best because in terms of your AD carries, and I don't think Dawngate has a separate name for them. I think
Uh,
I think we can get away with calling them AD
yeah, I
carries.
think we ranged carries.
Ranged carries. Yeah, right, because there's no real AD technically, but the ranged carries benefit really, really well off of haste, and generally it's a good idea to let the ranged carries have the haste buff. And right now we see Reyna is currently in a bad position, but so tanky that she can buy the rest of us time to get there.
Yep.
And Zeri ults her as well, so at this point, all of us are in the fight. I land a double CC, Braun is just able to clean up everything that he wants to, and I pick up one kill, JP steals the other.
I was so mad about this fight. I was calling for the penta. I was like, guys, give me the penta, because I'd gotten that really nice boomerang all the way through everyone. But it was a good fight, and the fact that Reyna made it out alive meant that we converged really quickly. We saw the fight happening. She was really tanky, and then Zeri put her ult on top of her. Zeri is the painter chick. If you guys are just don't know all the characters yet, and Reyna's the chick with the big shield and the hammer. Zeri's ultimate gives her a bunch of health regen. So she was able to just continuously sit in the front line with her shield up in front of her and tank out the fight. We'll pick up a free parasite here. No one on their team is really in a position to stop us. This is one of those moments where parasite is very, very much free. There's 3 of them down. Their jungler was on the way, but he had no backup. And although Volek can do a lot of damage, he tends not to build too much health and resistances. It's a tricky build. Sometimes if you really want Volek's full damage, you build too much in damage. He actually had a fairly even build, but it wouldn't have been enough for him to walk in and smite steal it away. I think that smite stealing is a little bit harder in this game, but you would know that better as you're a jungler. Same with
Braun,
Glorify if he
first of
wants to
all,
chime in.
it's
Okay, it's called Vanquish. It's
Vanquish.
called Vanquish.
It's
It's
Vanquish
called
steal,
Vanquish in this game.
not
That's
Smite
my
steal.
um, be quick, because I know the play that's about to happen.
Oh, well, I don't really have much to compare it to because I wasn't a jungler at all in League of Legends, so I wouldn't know about Smite stealing there. Uh, yeah, that's all I really
All
have to
right.
say.
So the reason I told him to be quick is because I know the play that's about to happen. So I am the Nissa. I am the Nissa farming. I'm the Nissa critting for about 1,000 damage. Michaela comes up behind me. I instantly turn. I'm about to throw out my boomerang. I'll pick her up on the back swing, and now Cerulean jumps me, flips me back. I should be dead. I am dead to rights. I am still being chased. Volek is going to chase me under tower, and with the greatest slow
Rain.
from the Reyna, I'm able to live. And that
And
was me getting out alive when I shouldn't have.
your drain also gave you enough health to tank through that.
Yeah, that was them. That was them thinking they had me. And to all rights, they probably should have. I didn't even pop my Blitz, which I really should have used. Blitz being my third spell, which is on my G. It's actually one of the better spells to pick up as a tank bruiser and even a carry towards the mid to late game. It gives you CC immunity once it's up, but it's not a cleanse, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, and one other thing I'd like to point out is that part of the reason he was able to stay alive through that entire fight was because our team did a very good job of peeling. And that is really important in this game. I'd almost say more important than it is in League of Legends, especially if your ranged carry is someone like Nisa, who doesn't have a hard escape. As you mentioned before, she does have a haste buff, which gives her more movement speed, but she doesn't have a dash or a blink or something like someone like Michaela or Varion would have. So peel is very important, and perhaps even more important to someone like what's his name, Vex. Vex is the most important carry to peel for. And right here, you go and duel him. I'm like, all right, I'm on my way back. I can CC him, and then you just kill him anyway. So
Yeah, he overcommitted there. At this point, I have almost full build. I have a bit of penetration, but what I have a lot of is crit. I have a lot of crit, a lot of lifesteal in my build. We're trying to take the core. So as you guys can see, we're trying to take out these little red orbs. What those are, they're sort of like the inhibitors in this game. You have to take down all of them before you can touch the Nexus. They don't change the super minions. That's actually been moved on to Parasite. So as you guys can see, there's probably a Strider hiding in there somewhere. Striders are the bigger minions. They've got sort of blades on their arms and whatnot. But you have to take out all of the cores before you can take out the Guardian, which is the Nexus raid boss thing trying to kill us. every time you take out a core, you change his attack pattern. Those little orbs that were flying out, the laser beam that he fires, the extra attacks that he shoots, those are all different. We're actually gonna pause as soon as this game ends. Those are all different attacks, and you guys need to take all of them out. So getting the back cores is more important. They're easier to defend, and they're harder to get to. So when you deal with the back cores, generally getting rid of the laser core and the bubble core are your two main priorities when you're trying to take out the boss.
The
Actually,
two of them are really detrimental to positioning for anyone who's trying to take Parasite, because if you get caught in a bubble, that's about, I think, 1.5 seconds of CC, just straight up stun. So anyone can hit you, but you can't do anything. And the laser core also just does a ton of damage in an AoE. So, but near the end of that, when you saw, first of all, their team had a massive mistake right there of trying to jump us one at a time, and they had more time than they thought they did, because the Guardian is going to keep attacking us and keep trying to throw those abilities at us, and that's going to slow us down a little bit. So they could have waited just 1 or 2 extra seconds so that more members of their team were alive at any given time, and they could have jumped us together, because in all fairness, it was 3 of us on our team, and there were 4 of them on their team, so it was possible that they could do it, and I was at low health as well. And one other thing I want to mention is, always make sure that you play to your shaper and play to the items you have as that shaper. Because in this instance, I was playing Petrus with Defiance. That's a pretty strong combination, because you can use your jump every 2 seconds if you have less than 25% health on Petrus with Defiance. That's pretty huge. That was the reason why I was sticking in that fight the entire time, because I could jump, spin out, jump, spin out, jump, spin out with extremely rapid succession, and we were able to see Cerulean died because of that as well.
yep. All right, so now, guys, we've gone through our full game. We've given you our base commentary. Now we're going to switch gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about some very specific instances, some things I've picked out of solo queue. I myself have been doing my best to get into the upper levels of solo queue. Glorified here, who is in the chat, is actually he's actually one of the players on one of the better professional Dawngate teams. He is up in the top 50 players. I've managed to break the top 200 if you guys have ever looked at the leaderboard. So these are matches from what is, fairly high tier solo queue. Not the best of the best, but nobody who's really really new to the game. These are all experienced players. So these are some individual situations, things you guys might run into. He's ranked 3 at the moment, so clearly Glorified is better than me at this game. I think I'm somewhere in like the 150s. So
Right, so
these
I'm
are
at 33, 35 right now.
yeah. So you're at 33, 35.
Yep, tell me when you get there and we can start.
I'm at
That's what.
33, 29. So
All right. 35 is where the clip starts, so I've just
yeah,
sped up.
33 is where the clip starts. So this is actually so now we're gonna look at some specific instances from solo queue, things you guys might run into, some possible scenarios you may have to deal with. So this first scenario, and you're not gonna see that much of the initial bit, but if you guys look at the mini map, there's this yellow circle here. That is a retreat ping. What has happened is my team has been jungle invaded on. We have 3 people up there against 3 of them, and we didn't see it coming. And you can talk more to jungle invade. So I'll play the clip quickly, and then I will call the stop, and you'll try and keep up with it. Sound good?
Yep. And this is the first time I'm seeing all this, so.
Yeah. So he's looking at this fresh and new. So the jungle invade goes through. Fenmore's a little bit out of position. They're trying to fight it off. Let's pause the clip at 33:45.
All right.
And it'll pretty much end there. And you want to talk a little bit about how do you deal with jungle invades?
How do you deal with jungle invades? First of all, this team didn't really do it correctly. One of the biggest things you want to worry about is intelligence. As you saw, there are no wards in the top side of the map for the blue team here, for your team, and that is a huge mistake already. Because if you buy quick enough, you should theoretically be able to get there as fast as the enemy team gets there, and maybe one person on their team has a move speed ability that lets them get there faster, but by no means does their entire team have the ability to get there 4 or 5 seconds before you. So you always want to be vigilant in your purchasing at the very beginning of the game. Like, as soon as the game starts, you are ready to play. You purchase everything you need and you rush out of the base because you need that initial ward coverage. These guys didn't know that they were being invaded, and as a result, we see Freya is forced to go back, and the red team makes it out with the free buff. One of the big things about information is that you want to gauge how many people there are. If there are, say, 2 people, then you can take your jungler who is already there and your 2 laners, and you can most likely fight them off. 3 people, you got to look at the level 1 power of what everyone has, as well as the bush positioning, which is pretty big as well, because you can't attack anything that's in a bush with targeted abilities. You can with skill shots, but that's about it. And auto attacks are a huge source of damage in level 1. So if you can't see someone, it's pretty detrimental to your damage. So you want to be careful and make sure that you either have bush coverage or just avoid the fight. And if there are more people on their team than yours, then you want to react with playing around the rest of the map. It's generally not a good idea when you have 3 people and they have 4 or 5 people to keep trying to contest that, because it's inefficient. They're probably going to be able to take you guys off of it, and in doing so, you waste a lot of time by trying to contest it in the first place, time that you could otherwise be spending taking a buff, and your laners end up in lower health. So their best play here, since they didn't have vision of it whatsoever, I would say I didn't see too much of it, but if they should have backed out as soon as they saw. If they did back out as soon as they saw, then the only advice I could really give is to just make sure you ward up there beforehand.
Good, cool. All right, so we're gonna play the clip through. The next clip is actually a first blood engagement. So we'll play this through all the way through the first blood clip, and I'll stop it once we get to the third clip. Sound good?
Yeah, give me a countdown this time, though.
All right, so 3, 2, 1, start it, and it'll play a couple more seconds of this clip. You guys do see Freya backs, or just she back? I think she backs. So here we're about to see a first blood engagement. I see the Salus out of the corner. He's gonna jump on top of me. As Mina, I have the ability to jump away to an ally. I jump out, and then Cerulean goes way too deep. We get the drain on him, and we're gonna trade 1 for 1. And 3, 2, 1, stop.
All right, so one of the biggest things I saw there was part of the play is the fact that as soon as Salus got in, he actually focused his efforts on you. It was clear from his positioning that he didn't mean to use you as a stepping stone to get to Varian. He just tried to kill you straight up. And maybe he doesn't know Mina's kit very well, but Mina can dash to an ally, shield them, and basically stay on their back the entire time. And that will distribute the damage between the two. I think Mina takes 40%, or she...
Yes, it's 40%.
Okay, Mina takes 40% of the damage, and the whoever she's jumping on takes 60%. So he should have been able to anticipate that, because it's one of the core parts of Mina's kit. So part of the reason why I know that he targeted you is because as soon as he jumped on you, he stuck around to do a couple of auto attacks, and as soon as you jumped over to Varian, he didn't quite know what to do for the first half second of it. He hesitated to actually continue following in. Secondly, part of that play was just the fact that, as you said, Cerulean went a little bit too deep. You guys were already basically within tower range, and he was going a little bit too far, and he sort of tunnel visioned on you, and I guess he just forgot about Varian's damage. And even though it was a 1-for-1 trade, you guys still ended up getting first blood off of it.
All right, so the next clip we're going to look at is another example of staying too long. Me and Varian stuck around to pick up the tower, and then we go in for some kills, and we weren't paying attention to our ward placement. Our ward placement was a little off. We had the ward in the bush instead of in the middle of the jungle, so we don't get as much vision here. So start the clip in 3, 2, 1. So you'll see we'll take down the tower, and Varian's very, very confident. He goes in for the kill. I follow up on him. And he is going to pick up the kill onto the Salus and onto the Mikella when she comes out of stasis, but we were too far out of position. The King of Mass in this area had outflanked us, and we got picked off. And let's stop in 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, and as you said, most of that was just lack of map awareness. You guys didn't see them cross your wards. And generally, if you don't have... Well, you guys did have ward coverage, but generally, and this is just a general note, but if you don't have ward coverage, You want to take the tower and then immediately get out right afterwards. You don't want to press your advantage too much if you don't see where they are. There's not really too much else for me to say on that unless you want to say something.
No, that's about it. Um, and let's see. So we'll start. I don't actually remember what the next clip is, so we'll start in three, two, one. So yeah, this is actually I believe this is a full-on team fight that ensues off of a parasite. Yeah, so we're gonna go in for the parasite. Oh yeah, so I'm gonna ward this bush up here, and Salus is gonna try and follow up. I instantly jump over to my carry after Zeri eats his ultimate in the face, and we're able to pick up the free kill. After that, I think we head over and pick up the parasite, and that one should be for free. And this actually, I believe, ends the game. This clip's actually gonna run a little bit, so we're just gonna keep talking. At this point, the enemy team decides to surrender, but we've got a huge kill lead. We've got 16 kills in the lead. We control every single spirit well, and we've also just picked up a free parasite. We've already broken their base. They're kind of in dire straits.
Yeah, whenever Parasite's up, you have to be careful about the plays you decide to make, because we can see right there that Zeri, once again, and again, one of the biggest returning points that we have, one of the biggest talking points, is about overstaying and overcommitting, and Zeri did just that by attempting to chase you guys out a little bit more, and I'll pause right as soon as the other clip starts. And basically, she should have been a lot more careful knowing that Parasite was up, because with a five-man team, you're much more likely to contest Parasite, and at that point, ultimates were used on their team. Their team's ultimates were used, and Varian didn't have his, but at the same time, they gave up a lot of pressure by trying to go for that, and you guys were already ahead. So it would have been pretty hard to turn the Parasite fight with a 5, but now that they had 4, they basically just gave up the para for free. Having fun with chat?
Yeah. Alright, so now we're going to move on to some clips from some other solo queue games. This is a little disjointed. It's not as many clips from the same game. Those last few were all from one game. But these are some really good examples of team fights. How to position in a team fight when you know you're outnumbered, how to focus. That's really what these three are about. So this first clip is a lot about how to know when you're outnumbered and when you stayed too long in a team fight and how to disengage properly and what happens when you don't. So let's start the clip in 3, 2, 1. So my team is really behind right now. We're down 17 kills. We're actually getting stomped pretty hard. Not a lot we can do, and we're mostly just trying to defend here, seeing if we can push things out to late game to get to a point where we can keep things alive. And yes, Glorified, I realize I misspelled your name. I'm trying to type while doing a show, man. I'm multitasking here. So we do bait them off of the Spirit Well for a moment. We're able to re-engage, and here's the thing that they shouldn't have done. We chase after them and flip them back. Everyone else should have run away. They should have left the Mina and the Freya to die. Freya goes back in and dies. Petrus is actually going to run away and make it out alive. We're going to lose, I believe, we lost our Cerulean, but we're able to continue to chase down and pick up, I think, at least one more kill. We'll get one there, and I believe that's it. And that was just us trying our best to get back into the game. We'll pause in 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, and that entire time I was trying to move my mouse to the side of the screen to try to scroll the screen over, because I'm used to using spectator or something. Either that or I thought it was in game. I don't know, but it was an involuntary reaction to try to move my mouse over to the side of the screen to scroll over. But either way, basically everything you said should be reiterated. First of all, they began that fight fighting a 2v3. They didn't really have, or a 2v5 rather. They didn't have clear shot calling because 2 people peeled off of the Spirit Well, 1 stayed there, and the 2 committed to the fight. Now, what could have been done is either the 2 people peel off of the Spirit Well and run interference, but don't full-on engage the fight, or have all three members of the team start engaging the fight. Now, I don't know how far the rest of their team was off of being there, but I can assume that they were,
They were a little. They eventually got to the fight. It took
Right.
maybe I'd say about 5 or 6 seconds for them to start showing up to the fight.
Yeah, so I think with the three of them, they might have been able to just poke it out, not, once again, not hard engage, but they do have the, as you said, kill advantage and vim advantage, so they could have wore you guys down a little bit better than they did, and that would have allowed the rest of their team to come and basically finish up the fight. And but since they made those decisions early on, they engaged with two people, those two got taken down really low really quickly, and they were almost out of commission for the rest of the fight. Also, one thing you have to keep in mind is that uh, whether you're ahead or behind doesn't really affect CC. Mina still has a fear no matter what. Cerulean still has a flip. Petrus still has a stun. Those things don't matter if you're ahead or behind, and I think the other team didn't really manage their positioning well enough to avoid the CC, which is another part of why I think you guys ended up winning that fight.
Yep. All right. So we'll start up in three, two, or not yet. Not yet. So the last clip we're gonna show here, guys, is
Right.
another team fight. I believe still from this game. It
Yeah,
might be from another game.
I think it's the same game.
Yeah, I think it's the same. Yeah, it should be the same game. So here's another fight from the same game. This is a team fight. My team's gonna lose this team fight, and we're gonna lose it because of
spoil
bad
it.
focus. So we'll
God,
start.
just spoil the entire thing for me.
Sorry. So we'll start the clip in three, two, one. Um, so yeah, this is the same fight. So we're still down a lot, but we've managed to claw a couple kills back. We're gonna look to try and catch them when they go to Parasite. I think was what was the call. We'd seen them coming through the ward, so we have really good ward coverage of Parasite. We know they're there. Our team starts to show up and starts to position. I'll take a couple shots over the wall, I think. Varion was a little out of position, and I think we're calling for the fight because we can see the Cerulean is trying to pick up that Spirit Well they couldn't get before. I'm going to come over the wall with my W. I'll jump over the wall to my Varion, and now we're going to catch Vex out of position. He starts taking a lot of damage. And, Varion jumps back, standard Varion procedure, do some damage, get out, do some damage, get out. And then I'm going to dive into the backline and try and finish the Vex, and my team is fighting everybody else because we did not pay attention to the fact that Cerulean is about to show up, and we just played it badly. Nobody was able to dive with me, and that was partially on me and partially on my team. I went too far ahead of them. I thought I could burst the Vex. I miscalculated my damage. I have too many health items for that to really be a possibility, and they spent a little too much time focusing the tanks. You can see the Reyna is really low, shouldn't be that low. The Mina is low. She shouldn't have been a kill target. And at that point, let's pause in three, two, one. We should be into the bonus clip. At that point, I wasn't going to be able to do much.
Yeah, and the two big things I can chalk to the win for the other team in that fight were your team's positioning and your team's focus. In terms of positioning, I saw a lot of your team. They didn't. As soon as the rest of their team showed up, they basically ignored Reyna and ran past her, which put themselves in a flanking position. And that entire time, they basically started to ignore. Uh, I just forgot her name. Reyna's CC. They basically ignored Reyna's CC for the rest of the team fight, and she was able to knock you guys around. She was able to put out slows as well as a little bit of damage, and overall be very annoying for the backliners. The rest of your team jumped in forwards, and you were basically pretty clumped up to take a lot of AoE damage, and once again, you were in the middle of a lot of other people. And it was really hard to get to the Vex in the first place, and so that's the part of the thing you were saying. The other thing was focus. There was no real clear focus in that fight. Some people were still targeting Reyna after the rest of the fight had started. You jumped on for Vex, but no one else tried to kill Vex, and I didn't really see too much about the middle of the fight. I wasn't paying too much attention to that, but I can only assume that the middle of the fight, since four members of their team were low on health, that the focus was split among those two who were in the middle of the fight. And if everyone had focused the same target, that might have been a little bit different. You might have gotten away with a couple of kills rather than getting a full-on team wipe.
Yeah. Also, their Mina got off a full team ultimate. If you guys are unfamiliar with what Mina's ultimate does, or who Mina is, she's that small doll-looking character, and her ultimate is an increase in damage. So you hit them with the ultimate, they take 10% plus a percentage of your power in increased damage. So that just amped up all the additional AoE damage that Reyna was putting out. So that sort of really caught us off guard. We're gonna go into the bonus clip. So this is sort of the tail end of the show. If there are any questions you guys want to ask us, now's a really good time to do that. I know Glorified and a couple of the other people in the chat have been answering additional questions, doing some theory crafting debate. That's really great. Um, if there are any specific questions you guys want to ask us, now would be a pretty good time to do it. I know there's a little bit of delay on the stream, so we'll wait for that to come through. And the other thing is these have all been our games. For the coming episodes, we want you guys to submit video to us, videos you guys want us to look at, things you want us to break down. And also, which is what this last clip is, which we'll show after questions are done, we want you guys to send us in your best plays, especially plays that are completely breaking the meta. So any insane, escapes like my Nissa escape, some awesome pentakills or omni kills, which is what they are in this game, parasite steals, anything you guys can think of would be really, really great.
Yeah, we'll choose the best, and we might even show some honorable mentions if it was a really hard decision.
Yeah, but mostly we want you guys to send us in the play to evaluate. We don't want to be recording our video. We want to do that as little as possible because we want you guys to be able to say, "Hey, here's a video. Help me figure out how to play better." We take it, we look at it. We'll run it by as many people as we can who are knowledgeable about MOBAs and Dawngate and ourselves, and we'll be able to put it on the show, and you'll be like, okay, so that's how I fixed that problem, or that's how X, Y, or Z works. So yeah, we're gonna play the last clip, and then you guys can keep throwing out questions if you guys don't have any. We'll leave out some intro music, and we'll see you guys next week. We'll probably put up a Reddit thread soon. So I'm gonna play the last clip, and I'll leave this one to Azaraki because this is his juke, his masterful juke. We'll start the clip in 3, 2, 1.
Alright, I don't quite remember how I got myself into this situation. Alright, so dashing out of Petrus's jump, first of all, and Michaela's trying to ult me as well. Petrus is spinning, and actually, that...
Oh, I only
that
just caught it.
Sort of missed it as well, but basically, I'm going to back up a little bit.
Yeah,
and
I'll back up and replay the clip from about here. So right here, Petrus is spinning on him, and Petrus is going to jump on him.
So basically, and this comes from just me knowing Petrus as a shaper. I play Petrus a lot. I main Petrus. I play jungle Petrus all the time. So I know basically what he's thinking, and I know the durations on his abilities. So right now he's spinning to me, and I know that he's going to try to jump on me and stun me, which is his W, right as soon as the spin ends, because as long as he keeps the spin up, he will be moving faster than he normally would, which closes more distance. You don't really see it, but right when his spin is about to end, I start running backwards the other way, and he continues to jump forward right after the end of the spin. I did not get stunned by that, and as a result, he didn't get the positioning on me to knock me back, and rather he knocked me into the wall, and I was just able to escape, get a last auto attack in on him, and he ended up dying. So that's a really good example of how knowing just all of the shapers in the game can help you in your play, because half of a MOBA is knowing how to play your shaper. The other half is knowing how the enemy plays their shaper, and this is a really good example of that.
Alright guys, well, it doesn't look like we have any pressing questions in the chat. Thank you guys for tuning in to At What Cost. We will be back next Sunday, same time, 5 p.m. PST, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I will be putting up a Reddit thread in the next couple of days, so you guys can start submitting clips to us for us to go over. That can either be an entire game, if you're willing to record that and send that in, or just individual clips of specific scenarios. This was a really good play. This was a really good bait. This was really good X, Y, or Z. And also, your get out of jail free card plays or your breaking the meta plays, anything you guys think would be a really good clip of the week.
And as soon as he has that up, he's going to end up tweeting it out on Twitter, and I'm probably going to retweet him, and we might do that periodically after he gets up that Reddit thread. So if you guys follow us on Twitter at TheSource for him, or at Azaraki Dragon for me, preferably both. Like I don't want to put ideas in your head, but you're probably going to want to follow both of us, but that's how you can stay up to date. And as soon as we get that Reddit thread up, you can find that at
Oh, it started. It started. Moby has
yes,
started
Moby,
it.
R.I.P. and Petrus. He dove, but at what cost?
It's
There we go.
begun. That was the point in the naming the show. So yeah, guys, definitely follow us both on Twitter for when we do other Dawngate related things, especially this show. We'll try and do it every week, and hopefully you guys send in some great clips for us to look at. So if that's it, I think we'll close out the show. Thanks for joining us, guys.
GG's.
And always remember, Petrus dove, but at what cost?